Hi, Smriti. How are you?
I am great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. So we'll just start in 3 to 4 minutes. It's just three
Perfect.
seven. Okay.
Sure.
That time, let the participants also join. Okay.
Right.
So a very warm welcome to our distinguished speaker for the day and our dear participants who have been striving hard with us since now it's the seventh day. So, a very warm welcome to you to the national level workshop on public policy and governance. day 1, and 1 week faculty development program. Today is the day 7 of this program. So we welcome our resource person, Smriti Panjwani ma'am from Jagran School of Public Policy and International Affairs, Jagran University, Bhopal. So this program is organized by Ministry of Education, Government of India's Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission on Teachers and Teaching through its Prime Center, Guru Angad Dev Teaching Learning Center, GADTLC, which is a part of SGBT Khalsa College, University of Delhi. So this program is co-organized with Droid Penal Group, which is a unit of Arjun Das Gulati Memorial Society. So today, ma'am will be talking and taking up a session on public policy and governance. So welcome to you, ma'am. And over to you.
Great. So before starting, may I request everyone to please switch on their cameras so that I feel that I'm talking to people and not the screen.
So as the resource person requests, so I would request all the participants to just whoever feel fit to switch on their cameras, they can switch on their cameras.
It's really good to, have an interactive session rather than just I'm speaking and you guys are listening. I could see your smiles on your faces, if I may. Great. So may I start, sir? Yeah. Wonderful. I welcome you all here. It's my pleasure to have an interactive session with you, and I hope it goes this way only. The topic, which is public policy and governance. I think many of you are aware, but it's really a budding topic, which is coming onto the platform these days. We have studied law, economics, sociology since past many, many years. But this public policy is gaining a lot of trajectory because we are really feeling that the change which we are desiring in society has to be multidisciplinary. And this public policy, what it does is it combines all the major fields and converts that how can we really start from the core part, which is the public policy. If we bring a change in that perspective, we can take forward the change which we are willing to bring into the society. So having said this, I pose a question to you all that what is a very normal daily thing which you cannot live without? It can be anything. Basic thing which you think you cannot exist without
Water.
or is very important to you. Water. Okay. Next. Okay, I'll take it forward. Yeah, is anybody willing to answer? Ma'am, you're muted, Dr. Zarasri, ma'am.
No, as a teacher, like you need to have the knowledge to share that. I mean, that won't be the basic.
Yeah, okay. So knowledge is one thing. What I'm coming on to is we may see anything, light, water, air, the knowledge which we all teachers need to have, to make our classes interactive. Everything surrounding us, from a pin to an aeroplane, has a policy revolving around it. If we see a car, the multidisciplinary resources that go into making it. Let's start with a chip, a semiconductor chip. Even that has a major $1 million economy revolving around it. Do we have the facility to provide that chip, to produce that chip, or are we importing it from another country? If we are importing it from another country, that becomes another policy matter. Moving to air, regarding the pollution, regarding the light, electricity, how it will be generated. If it is generated through sustainable methods, then how are the reservoirs being regulated? everything that you see around you. If you come on to the knowledge part, the national education policy that we are recently gifted with, the education sector, everything has policy surrounding it. And these policies are made none other than by us, that is people. Now, I'm not solely saying that only the people representatives make the policy. There are many actors that go into it, which is the matter of discussion for us. But do we understand what is public policy as a field? We know what is maths, we know what is law, what is economics, sociology, etc. Public policy, what does the term actually means?
Anything that
Anybody
is
can
used,
answer, please feel free.
anything that
Yeah,
is used by the general people, when
yeah,
common people start using it and many access to that particular thing, there needs to be some regulatory measures. And that is
correct.
what a
Ma'am,
policy governs.
you are very well referring to one aspect of the public policy, which is regulatory measures. Likewise, there are many other measures or components of public policy. If I define it in one basic layman term definition, any policy relating to the public is public policy. So I'll start with my PPT and then we can move forward, whatever I'm presenting to you right now. I'll share my PPT and then you can confirm that it is visible. Do you guys can see my PPT?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. So public policy and governance, now we know the basic meaning. Public policy, any policy made for the public is termed as public policy. Now other components, what does it contain? Who makes it? Who is it made for? And likewise, questions will be answered. So our agenda for this 3-hour session would be very simple, starting with the introduction. What does it mean? Agenda setting, not this agenda, but this is the agenda of our meeting. Then we have agenda setting of public policy, policy formulation, adoption, and implementation. All these terms are very much interlinked to each other. One cannot proceed with another. So, what actually is meant by public policy? It can be defined as a system of laws. Do you think our society can function without, mechanisms of laws or law and order in the society? Suppose there are no traffic lights, there is no law or guidelines for traffic. The whole city would turn into a chaotic area because there are no laws. This was a very smaller example of laws. But what I'm referring to here is anything which goes against the constitutional laws of our land is termed as invalid. So every policy has to conform to the fundamental law of this land, that is constitutional. So any policy which is made which does not adhere to the laws is unconstitutional. It cannot be maintained or it cannot be practiced in our society, nation, world, anywhere. Basic thing, system of laws. When we will combine all these components, you'll get a proper, beautiful structure of public policy. Second is regulatory measures. Okay, now we have laws, agreed. But we need some measures, regulatory measures from time to time to change or to tweak according to the situations which are prevailing in our surrounding. So regulatory measures can be in various formats. Courses of action. Everything look good on paper, but will it reap the benefits which we are seeking from the public policy? No. So the courses of action is kind of the bridge, the link, which starts from the system of laws or the ideas that are generated in our minds to the actual outcomes which are desired by us, the people. So by the people, for the people, of the people, this definition of democracy is actually the basis of the public policy and its functioning. Am I clear or am I going too fast?
It's clear, ma'am.
Clear, ma'am.
Please feel free to stop me in between to ask anything. I would love to hear from you all. Okay, so system of laws, regulatory measures, courses of action, and nothing happens without having some pennies. So funding priorities are a must. You must have heard responsibility without accountability, accountability without resources, all these fancy phrases. The funding creates the sole kind of power that gives us to actually implement these policies on any topic. So if I may say that when there are systematic laws, to in addition to support it, there are regulatory measures. These measures are converted into courses of actions, and when there is proper funding, we can actually do something about that problem. Okay, but now who will do? I'll do. Dr. Crescenta would do. Bhagwani ma'am, Bhavna ma'am would do. Dr. Pradanya ma'am would do. Who would do? Who has the authority? If I say कि these potholes near my home should be filled, but who will fill it? There's need to be a proper authority, and that is where these public policies are always promulgated by a governmental entity. If I say anything, that is of no use. But if it has the stamp of Government of India, it will have to be done, because then the responsibilities and accountabilities are set. Now, Government of India cannot do everything. They have their own representatives. Those representatives can be in any format. Those advocacy groups, NGOs, taking the help of the academia, people like us, having greater discussions, having conferences like we are having one. All these things contribute to the actual ultimate outcome of public policy. So I think now components are clear, a little picture is being created in your minds. What is actually public policy? What all components it does have. Correct? Now, having said this, these public policies are influenced by the external factors. It could be through education. If we are raising some research papers where it says that there is a new problem arising of artificial intelligence taking over people, if we are raising one issue, then government may or necessarily may have to look over that topic. That means we are kind of putting ideas into the government's heads that this area has to be looked into. So we can influence public policy. Advocacy groups, business groups, lobbyists who have a real interest in certain areas, they have a major say in public policy courses of actions, and mobilization of interest groups. All these external actors actually play a role, and they shape policy. If the policy is a germination of a governmental entity idea, then the policy is shaped by these other actors. And as I already mentioned, the major aspect of public policy is law. Do you guys, can you relate to it to any example? The recent news which is going on, that how law is making a major, impact. You must be aware about the tussle going on between the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi and the CM of Delhi.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So they are unable to bring or have a proper concrete solution to their problem because everything has been mentioned in the law. They are taking the support of the law. LG will have the rights, it is mentioned in the law, so it will happen. CM is continuously troubled by the LG's actions, but that is how law it is. If we really want to, deal with the situation, we'll have to change the law. And that will be according to the constitutional grounds. So law plays a major role in our everyday life as well. If I am buying an electrical vehicle and I'm getting a subsidy over it, that subsidy has been decided in conjunction with the law, that because of the Environmental Protection Acts, I should be getting a subsidy because a major portion of the funding from the government I am taking. So that was one example. Now, If I say people should not be having the nutritious meal in the midday meal, is that an example of public policy?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
don't think so. Because it has to always be in the favor of the public. It cannot go against public. Everything you are proposing to do has to be in the favor of the public. That is a basic underline. Otherwise, it is not a public policy problem. Whatever government tries to do is to appease public, to resolve their problems. And these public policies are not a one-day affair or a two-day affair or a 2-month affair, if I may say. They are shaped over several years and years of, discussions, consultations, the actual political climate, how we are able to create it. Now, if I say my foreign policy is a very robust policy, as I'm seeing in the recent days, that I am being recognized by even Russia, even USA, and every other major powerful country is recognizing India. That does not mean that it is the result of the last 1 year which has happened in country. It is a result of the past 10 years or 20 years of how I'm putting my country's image forward, for what values I'm standing upon. So it is an outcome of several years and several institutions. Not one institution is capable of shaping the public policy of the country. I hope you guys are with me right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Very well with you.
Thank you so much. So,
Yeah,
I think, yeah. So far we have laid the canvas of public policy. Yeah, moving forward, public policy should be there. It is, we are surrounded by it, but who is actually responsible for this? We all know that we elect public representatives who are supposed to implement good policies for our welfare, for public welfare, for the betterment of the society. These are all good things that we all are aware of, and we know that it should be done. But it is not only the government's failure which results in the lack of implementation of any policy, because there are many other actors that come into play. There are various individuals, corporations, NGOs, interest groups that always try and juggle for the power play. They always try to further their own interests in a particular way. If government environment has to be saved, but that does not mean the industries which are running over certain metals should be closed. They cannot. They will always try to push their own agenda. So we cannot always put all the responsibility on the policymakers, but we do expect policymakers to actually give their best. But how can they give their best? First, always have clear goals. Please make sure ki what are you trying to serve to me? And that should be in my best interest. Whatever the tools, instruments which you are using, use it in such an effective manner that the outcome of the policy is a combination of greater good and lesser loss. It should not be the other way around. It should always be the more positive and less negative, because nothing can be 100% good. So the actors which are trying to contradict your policy, or sometimes they may complement your policy, but you will have to ensure that you have an upper hand over these multiple of actors, because you are the real uh, supporter or the responsible actor that has to implement these policy makers. And how can you do this? By ensuring that you have proper ethics. Now, as academicians, we must know what are research ethics: honesty, integrity, sharing of things, supporting people. All these are research ethics. Then we have personal ethics. Similarly, we have public sector ethics. And one great example could be the office of profit. That if you're using an office, you cannot use it for your personal gain. It has to be for the public good. So certain ethics are expected by you, that means policymakers, to keep in mind while you are formulating, adopting, implementing any public policy. Importance, I think I have put some bits and pieces till now by telling about the public policy, that why it is important. So first is, it happens in our everyday life. You cannot deny it. If I want that I get a H&M brand clothing here, that means some foreign direct investment in the clothing industry is being regulated by government, and that is why I'm getting that here. If I am going for the Ode Desh Ka Aam Nagrik, if I want to travel through air at a cheaper rate, that means that somewhere that resources are being put by government to make that happen for me. If I want to fly, if I want good clothing, everything is being regulated by the public policy. You name it and I can give the example for it. If you talk about rural areas, the Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana, because we want to make their life easy. We want to have for them clear fuels, clean fuels, to stop the diseases that are arising from the smoke that is generated by it. If I want my youth to be employed properly, I need to skill them. So public policy plays a major role in our day-to-day economy. If my country is becoming the fifth topmost economy in the world, it is the outcome of the policies which I have been implementing, be it related to defense, be it related to the economy, be it related to the any other sector, small scale industry, any other sector. So I cannot overlook the importance of public policy. Moving forward, the second one, public policy also tells us which things should be funded first, because the priorities are set by the public policy. All the resources that government has, how those resources are to be used, is being decided by public policy. Which laws are passed? Do I uphold the marriage of same-sex marriages? Is a decision that is taken through public policy. Do I implement uniform civil code? Is a decision that will be taken by public policy. So whatever the topics that are concerning our society, and among those topics which are our priorities, is decided by public policy. So I cannot ignore public policy. I will reiterate this sentence. Public policy cannot be ignored. Then, if I have problems, then the solutions are offered by public policy. If my society is changing, if there's a new concept of live-in relationships, then is it right, is it wrong? That would be decided by the public policy. There was a recent Supreme Court judgment that it is a prerogative of the youth. So that is a component of public policy. And it can be decided on different levels. It need not be coming from top to bottom. It can also be from the bottom to top approach. I may raise an issue and then circulate it through channels to the top government, to the top strata. But it can be other way around as well. Another example, CAA Act, which recently government is bringing. That is their concern, which is the top bottom down approach. So it can come through communities, through states, and even the nationwide channel. Public policy is a crucial in forming the guidelines and principles of a society. I cannot emphasize this point enough, because whatever the politics which we are surrounding around us, I do not want to offend somebody, but if certain principles are degrading, if there's a lot of not a good language being used in politics, that is somewhere shaping the principles of our society or are a reflection of our society. So we will have to choose wisely that what are we wishing for. And this policy, public policy, helps in shaping that role. Another very important need of public policy is that governments come and go. But the policies which are shaped by those governments, they outlast and they remain forever. So whenever we choose our representatives, we are very clear that what ideology we are supporting, in the sense that what are we actually wanting for our society. Because even after they go, that policies remain and that history of our country's economy remains. So I think now you must all agree that public policy is an important importance in our lives and society and our economy by now. I really hope that. There's a very interesting definition being brought forward by Easton, who said, public policy is a web of decisions and actions that allocates values. As I told, whatever we are projecting through our decisions and actions, they are shaping the values of our society. If I am saying that, for example, I will not allow certain sections of the society to have shelter in my country. That means I am projecting my values for my future generations. So public policy, very subtly, they are the decisions which are taken by government, but these are the outcomes of the values which we have in our society. Any questions till now?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Perfect. Now quickly have a look on the table which is being displayed on your screens, and then we'll connect that how they're important, and then we'll have a very fun exercise over it. Quickly go through the table. We'll come back to it later. When you are done, please let me know that so that I can move forward. Okay. Another interesting definition which I want you guys to comment on too. Okay. A popular way of understanding and engaging in public policies through a series of stages known as the policy cycle. Cycle, any circular structure that leads one component to another and then to next. And the cycle means I'm returning back from the last component to the first component. So keeping this in mind, a very knowledgeable scholar, Harold Laswell, in his book, which is known as The Decision Process, 7 Categories of Functional Analysis, which was published in way back 1956, he proposed this policy cycle. What is the topic for our today's lecture? So beginning with agenda setting. As I mentioned that what is our agenda for this lecture today, there's an agenda for every policy that takes place. We start with agenda setting. Then we come to the policy formulation. As in the picture, you could see many people joining the bricks of a puzzle together, sewing it in, and a certain person standing beside and instructing the other person on how to do it. This is the actual scenario which takes into place in the policy cycle. And all these points are connected to each other. So as I had my agenda setting, my policy formulation for this lecture is, I'm asking everybody to participate. I'm asking everybody to please listen to me. And then give answers back to me so that I can assure that you guys are here. And then comes the policy adoption or legitimation. If you guys agree to whatever I'm saying, then you accept that proposal, and otherwise you do not. So that is the policy adoption stage. And then comes the policy implementation. If you actually switch on your cameras, if you actually answer back to me, if you actually agree to me or disagree to me, that is the implementation part, where my objective, which is to make this session interactive and useful for you all, has been actually implemented. And then comes the evaluation, the topic which will be covered in tomorrow's lecture. So now it is clear that we have a starting point, a notional starting point in our heads, where if I create an analogy to policymakers, they try to identify key, where should we start with? What should be our starting point? What is our problem? What are we trying to offer? That is the agenda setting part, to a notional end point where we assume that it has been implemented. And then the evaluation part, where we try to analyze whether it was successful in deciding or not. Actually, was the session interactive or useful for you? That is the evaluation part, which the organizers will do later through the feedback form. And if there is any problem, that is that gap has been filled, and then we come back to the agenda setting stage. So I think the feature of the cyclic nature of public policy cycle put forward by the Harold Laswell is useful for us. And it makes things clear for us in a heuristic manner, that whatever we are trying to learn is simplistic and registers in our mind. Great. So now we will try to have a look at the stages in isolation in particular detailed format. Agenda setting, as you can see in the beautiful colors on my screen, agenda setting, blue and pink. So how do we decide that what do we want to make the policy on? What if I want a policy to be made on stopping children from crying in trains because I'm very much disturbed by it? Is that a problem good enough to be thought upon? Or take another problem for that matter, that people are dying, poor people, because of the extreme cold weathers that we are facing in the northern India. Is that a better problem to think about, or any other problem? So we are surrounded by multitude of problems in the society. But how are we deciding that is upon us? And that is what the first step in agenda setting is. What attention to, what problem should government pay attention to? Which issue deserves the most pressing need? And what is the nature of the problem? All these things are first thought about under agenda setting, which is considered to be as the first step of the policy cycle. But this foundation is primarily laid by the national and constitutional laws and regulations. We need to adhere to the constitutional principles that are laid down by our constitutional makers. That is the first step. Okay. Now, I'm not only saying that the constitution is the base. There are certain judgments, interpretations that are given by our judiciary. Even that constitutes a major part of the basics, foundations, which we're trying to, adhere to. For example, if judiciary says that up to the extent of 500 meters, there should be no alcohol shops. Now, that is not written in Constitution, but I'm still adhering to it. Why? Because even that holds some authority. This live-in relationship judgment was given by Supreme Court, So I will adhere to it because those judicial interpretations are a major part of the foundation of public policy. I cannot ignore them while making any policy. So that is one thing under agenda setting. Then comes, why am I trying to emphasize on this topic? Matlab, why should I take a problem? Why should I? Because I need to solve it. I am taking that problem with the purpose of solving it. We, as academicians, teach students.
And because you want to
Then
solve
we,
it.
correct. We teach students because we want them to succeed. So we are mentoring them in certain manner. Similarly, agenda setting, what it does is, suppose we have a problem, suppose we have identified the problem so far, then we see whether do we need a new policy on it? Do we need a policy on AI? Do I need a policy on data protection laws? Or I need to reform the existing laws which are existing? Do I need to upgrade them or update them? So with the agenda or objective in my mind that I want to benefit society, I want to solve their problems in conjunction with the laws that are existing, and to create some public values, I set my agenda. That is the basis of my public policy cycle. Any doubts so far?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. No.
I really, really hope that you guys are enjoying, because it's a very interesting topic. And these are basic things which we are aware, but we are not able to put into words because it comes in a fancy term, that public policy. But it is everything we know. Okay. So moving forward, agenda setting. Before that comes very, very interesting concepts, which is social construction of problems. Until now, we were aware what are problems, why we need to solve it. But what is this new term of social construction of problems? Because it states that with the evolution of our societies and economies, the nature of problems also change. The morals which we were upholding also change. And that change is acceptable or not, desirable or not, that is to be found out. So if I'm referring to the term social construction of problems, that means those values or morals that are evolving along with the nature of the problem. That is one part. Another interesting concept, which I think you should know because you're doing a lecture on public policy, is policy stream. It was given by a scholar, John Kingdon, who says that if there are any problems, they need to be accompanied by two major factors. That if you really want to solve it, no, if you want to put that problem into a policy stream, you need to make sure that you have a conducive political climate and feasible solution to that problem. I'll give a very interesting example of this. The introduction of the farmer bills that the government did. They tried to propose a feasible solution to it, but even then it could not take proper shape because the political climate did not allow it to. Or it could be the other way as well. Political climate was there because of the majority, but there was not a feasible solution. So any problem, if you want to put into a policy stream, so now I think you understand the meaning of policy stream. Any problem has to be conjoined with two factors: proper political climate and feasible solution. Okay. Third, very interesting, policy window. I think even now I'm into a policy window because for a policy window, we need a critical time management so that suppose the creation of Ram Mandir. Okay? The time and the situation was such that in relation to it, certain policies could be introduced. So policy window is that when the policy stream has the proper time and situation so that a new policy could be motivated. The CAA amendment bill could be introduced because we saw that there was a troublesome situation from our neighboring country, Pakistan. There was a situation. Because of that given situation, that critical time window which the policy had, that we were able to introduce that amendment bill. Had I introduced this 10 years before, it could not have been passed. Okay, so I think you are now moving to our next level by understanding these terms: social construction of problems, policy stream, policy window. With this brings to us on a last interesting topic, interesting term, not the of agenda setting, issue attention cycle. Okay, we have personal problems, all of us has, but there are various stages to a problem which I never thought could exist. But after reading, I was so amazed that there are 5 stages to any problem even. And this was given by Anthony Downs in 1972. So first is, as you could be seeing on the screen, pre-problem stage. Problem exists, but not paid attention to by the public, media or policymakers. Nobody knows it. Okay. I may refer it for the example, something related to dogs. Until this PETA gained attention, nobody paid attention to that problem, the mistreatment of animals. But eventually, when every person, media, people paid attention to it, that problem entered into the second stage, which is alarmed discovery and euphoric enthusiasm.
Yeah.
I got, yes, ma'am. Are you guys present?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, could you please repeat what was alarmed discovery and euphoric?
Alarm, correct, right, sir. Alarmed discovery means suddenly you are discovering, oh my God, it has become such a big problem. And you're trying to solve it with so much enthusiasm. That means suddenly the seriousness of the problem has been paid attention to either by the people, either media is making people aware of it. For example, another example, misuse of online platforms, yeah, financial frauds that are going on. Yesterday, I was seeing a proper episode on how online frauds have increased. So they were happening, but there is an alarmed discovery about it. Now everybody is making each other aware that it is becoming such a serious problem. So this is the second stage where you discover that the problem is existing and you need to do something about it. Now, how will you do something about it? By measuring what are the costs, benefit analysis that will come into play to provide solutions. And if the solutions are provided, then what are their consequences if you're not adhering to the solutions? Now we're talking of only one problem, but we are dividing that problem into 5 stages. Pre-problem stage, it exists, but you are not recognizing it. Suddenly there is a seriousness of problem, and now there's a lot of awareness about it. And then comes the realization of costs. Now you're actually trying to do something about it, but now it's like this. The declining part is eventually it is accepted by people. कि हाँ चलो ये तो होता ही रहता है. You must have heard a very famous dialogue in Nayak. कुछ सुनेंगे, कुछ देर चिल्लाएंगे, फिर चिल्ला के चुप हो जाएंगे और फिर भूल जाएंगे. You guys must have heard this dialogue. So this is one stage, issue attention cycle का एक stage where people eventually forget about it. Now, poverty has been normalized by people, even though it's a pressing issue, but people have accepted it. That is the decline in public interest in issue. And the policy makers, the politicians wait that let the matter go into this stage so that we do not have to do anything about it. So they wait a problem to come into this stage, and eventually the issue may slip off, sab bhool jayenge or back down, but there are chances that that issue may resurface in certain situation or condition. For example, our external dealings with countries like Pakistan and China. We had a war with China in 1965. Then we were eventually like, okay, we'll try to mend our relations with that country. Okay? But eventually that issue resurfaced with our Bhutan what was that in Doklam issue? Eventually that issue came back again. And then we realized that we really need a proper policy over it to deal with our these kind of neighbors. So, I think you are understanding that how a problem progresses through stages, and it could apply on any matter. You may sit and you may also, go through that, which problem is entered which stage. Another example, Me Too movement. That problem existed, but eventually there was a lot of, euphoric discovery. Oh my God, this has happened with Me Too, Me Too, Me Too, Me Too, Me Too. So that was the second stage. Then we thought about how do we deal with that situations. So eventually Vishaka guidelines came into 2010, protection of women workplaces came along with it. And then eventually it was normalized and the issue slipped off. These are the stages of a problem. And this was a concept which is very used in a public policy concept. So knowing the stage and certain concepts and terms, that completes your first stage of policy cycle, which is agenda setting. Why do you set the agenda? How do you set the agenda? For whom do you set the agenda? Are clear to you by now. And the second stage which comes is policy formulation. Okay. So now I may say that you have the clear intent. Okay. You have set the agenda. For our agenda is to attend this workshop lecture. Now, how do we proceed with it? So for me, you guys must have to, take out time of your schedule, have the infrastructure, have the laptop, proper connection, minus your all other work. Ask your friends and students and children not to disturb me during this time. These are all how you formulated your agenda on paper. And for me, I had to tell everybody, do not disturb me into this time. I had to prepare a PPT. I had to read. I had to come up with examples, what I'm going to teach. This is how policy formulation actually takes place. You create a design. You put efforts that what are my aims, what target population I want to give benefit to, how am I going to do that, in which area am I going to do that, am I just apply it to Madhya Pradesh, do I only want to apply it to my northern eastern states, is it a pressing issue in the southern states? The design, the deliberate, where you come up with a structure on hand, on ground, on paper. That is the design part. Now, if I may relate, अब design को color भी तो करना है. Now we need to color that design. A black and white design is not that appealing to people, right? So ideas, the plans of action, how you're going to do that. What are the principles? How are you going to support it through the laws? Which law are you upholding? Now, this policy formulation does not only contain ideas, it may also contain data. And I think you all are doctors, if I am seeing on the screens. So you are PhD holders, you know that how data forms a major part of the analysis of any policy. How you come to that policy is because of the data. So along with your actions and principles, you also collect data. Okay? Because you just not need to tell a story. You need to convert that story and actually convince people that this is the right thing which I'm doing. So to gain their support, which is the next stage in policy adoption, ideas. So design is the drawing, is the coloring of that drawing, and then comes the empirical phenomena, that things what are already being done and what are their outcomes. If at this point of stage I realize that these things are already done, I will change my policy formulation agenda because these things are already done. Or either I'll support them, I'll supplement them. Or, past policies also act as I should not be doing this. If I get bored in a lecture in any other workshop, I'll make sure I do not repeat that thing because I do not want to further that to other people. Similarly, so we are clear, ideas are the coloring part. Empirical phenomena is like, drawing the outline with sketch pen. And then comes the decision making. Policy formulation is a very intricate and delicate step. You need to know that you have the enough costs provided to you, what solutions I'm proposing, and what the effect is going to be. Suppose if my cost is high, but the impact of the solution is low, I would not go for that decision making. But if it's other way around, I will go for it. So that decision making has to be reflected in this stage itself, because this stage is a very crucial step. Now you may be wondering that who does this step. So, all the parliamentary committees or the secretaries of ministers or the bureaucrats, they play a major role in this policy formulation because they are very well aware of what is on the ground and what is expected to solve that problem. So this policy formulation is done by those people. And what should be a good feature of a good policy formulation is, because the society is complex, dynamic, there are so many actors. Okay? We must have seen in our universities or colleges, we need to please so many people, students, administrators, our higher authorities. We need to also do workshops. We need to present in conferences. So all these complex scenario requires a dynamic approach to the problem. And it has to be interactive. If I'm formulating a policy, I need to go to the people and ask, what are they really wanting from me? What is their problem? If I see a problem, but that does not exist on ground, there is no use of making that policy. Correct? So interaction. Agar it's a bottom-top approach, I need to ask the communities. And if it's a top-down, bottom approach, I then also need to ask communities that are they willing to accept it or not? Is it what they really want? If introduction of farmer bills failed, that means there was some lacking on this part. Farmers may not have been consulted what they really want. It was just imposed onto them. And that is why this policy cycle got break in that matter. So agenda setting equally important, because I am, channelizing my brain because I'm stating my intent. Then policy formulation is equally important because I'm laying down the plan that how am I proposing to do it. Without policy formulation, I cannot move to the next stage. Shall I move forward?
Can I ask a question, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Please, ma'am.
Yes.
So you said that in farmers' laws, basically the legislation failed because they were not consulted. But for every legislation that we make, we don't usually ask the implementers, like on whom we are implementing them. So, just for example, if we are making laws on euthanasia, which is in process, so we have taken the government has taken the suggestions or opinions with regard to it from all the other contributors of the society, but they haven't basically consulted as such. So for every, my question is that for every policy making, is it important to consult the people? Because since we are implementing on them, so is it necessary for every legislation, or we have to skip with regard to the topic?
I think, ma'am, to the extent possible, we do take into account the suggestions and opinions by people. You must have seen the draft is available on the sites. Now you can go through it and submit your suggestions and opinions. And even if not all common people are involved, their representatives in the form of civil societies, the NGOs, the concerned health practitioners in your example, they all are consulted, in a roundtable conference, and only then the policy is being formulated. And even then, another test, which is the policy adoption, where the representatives from different constituencies sit together and then accept that policy. So I know we cannot involve 3 billion people into, but their representatives are very much have the platform to convey their concerns.
Yeah.
Are you satisfied with the answer?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Great. Because the more interactive that policy is, the more support it will gain in the later stages. If you will impose something, it may not. If I tell the example of my nephew only, if I just say him to study, he will not. If I tell him if he'll study, he'll get good marks. If he'll get good marks, his friends will respect him and then he'll achieve good things. He'll be more tuned to accepting that order. That's how basically policy works. We can always connect it with our personal day-to-day activities because it is for us only. Okay, so moving forward with another interesting definition, you guys have to tell me whether you agree with it or not, which is public policy is whatever governments chooses to do or not to do. How many of you agree with this statement and how many of you do not? Please support it with a rational argument. Do you guys agree with the statement that public policy is whatever government chooses to do or not to do?
Hello, ma'am.
It's a very difficult question.
It's ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Hello.
Okay, ma'am. To some extent, it's right, ma'am. It's not totally correct.
It is very difficult.
You are being such.
We are not able to answer this question.
Okay. Dr. Jarasri is being such a nice diplomat. Yeah. Good, nice to some extent.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So, when the statement was given by Thomas R. Dye, he was very right in his perspective that there are many issues, but the policy is made on whatever the issue the policy is made. That means government is choosing to do that thing. But on issues which government is not making any policy, that means that is also an intent of the government. We say, no, silence is the best answer. If I do not say anything, for example, other participants here did not say anything. That means they are somewhere agreeing to what I'm saying by not saying anything. The other participants who are not responding are agreeing to whatever I'm saying.
No,
So
ma'am,
they are also
It is not right.
My intent. Yeah, please. I would love that. What I'm saying is that the issues on which government is not making any policy, is that also a part of the public policy?
May I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
Every government is of 5 years. I mean, like exceptionally, if something works for that government, but they have certain limitations with regard to everything, and we can't agree and disagree with the same statement by Thomas Dye, because of the time period or the limitations or the restrictions that the current government is facing, whoever the current government is facing, uh, state or central. That is one thing. So they may not be in a position to make any policy if they want to. First thing. Second, if the previous government has made certain things because of which they have to just, really do the backlogs first and then make the policy and implement it. So maybe that of 5 years is not enough. We all know that. That legislation is not that easy as we think, and imposing is more easier. So many of the previous question which I was asking was in relation to that. Many of the times the government, they do impose their policies, so they don't ask the implementers, citizens. Like I would give an example of the change of currency. Okay, that government has done. So, or the current government has done. So these are certain things the government has to take, whoever the government is, or they have to, there are certain restrictions also. So you cannot agree and disagree at the same time with this particular thing. But they do take advantage. Every government do take advantage of it because they are in power of it. So they can take advantage of the same thing, right? So by not choosing doing things because they want to be in favor of certain, in India, we go with religious voting or caste voting. So we do implement policies that may favor that particular government. So it is not absolutely right. So maybe the silence is not agreeing with you, but disagreeing with you. That is what I just wanted to say. So you can't really agree with the same statement. It has more explanation to it.
I really thank you for putting your perspective, because this perspective was in the later time shared by Thomas Dye himself. He said ki no, I am being very narrowing down the content of public policy. It also includes if certain academic discourses are going on, okay, to discuss on what the government should be doing, even that shapes public policy somewhere. But Thomas said ki I'm not taking into that account. That means I'm limiting my definition myself, which you said ki they are not in the situation to do so. But when we consider it as a topmost priority, it happens. For example, the abolition of Article 370. This problem existed for 70 years, but it was not the prioritized mandate of the previous government. The same course could have taken previous as well, but it took now because it was my priority. For example, I'll connect it to the daily life. I should be going for a walk daily for 1 hour, but I don't go thrice in a day. I'm choosing not to do that. I'm choosing not to prioritize my health. So whatever I'm doing is my life. Similarly, government's life is whatever it chooses to and not to do. If I'm not prioritizing my health, I'm prioritizing taking a lecture here. This is my conscious choice. Similarly, in government strata and structure, it happens that way. If it was a priority for me, I could have taken it to some extent possible. I'm not saying it is always possible. Am I okay? Are you satisfied or do you agree with me now?
Yes, ma'am. We will agree.
Hannah? Perfect. So that is why I put the statement here to have a good discussion, which leads us to a third stage. So we had agenda setting, policy formulation. Now everything looks good on paper. Government is choosing to bring certain policy and they have laid down the proper columns, structures, policy, 15-page policy. Policy has been formulated on data protection law. Okay? All the stakeholders have been consulted. My priorities have been selected. Cost benefit analysis has been done. I know where the resources will come from. I know what is my target population. I know how it is to be achieved. Okay? I need to know where it has to be implemented, when it's to be implemented, for how much time it has to be implemented. Everything is clear and looks good on paper. Okay? Now we have the chart all prepared. We just need to go and submit it to our teacher. Okay? That is the policy adoption stage. Okay? Where what happens is, imagine the scenario of a parliament where you present your proposed policy and now it has to be adopted, where they will analyze it. And what is analysis? It is the process of all the information that has been put into place. You are seeing are the strategies actually winnable? Now you analyze it. If I go for a walk daily, will it help me to maintain my diet and all these things? That is the analysis which not only one person who has formed the policy is doing, but all the important people who have that capability of analysis are doing that. And we are doing this to for the betterment of the society is one thing, but to keep ahead of the competition, in the sense that you must have seen the competition between states as well. In various areas. That is analysis where you try to give value to creating public value. Okay? That analysis goes on for days as well. And that is where also we take into account the consultation of the people. Are they ready to accept it or not? By this point, I'm trying to say that not every stage is in isolation. They are connected to each other. If I'm saying under policy formulation, interaction takes place, even under policy adoption, we try to take into consultations from various other people. So it is an overlapping factor. That means एक stage खत्म हुआ फिर दूसरा शुरू होगा जरूरी नहीं है. It is not important if one stage ends, only then the other starts. We are doing it. I am segregating stages for our learning purpose. On ground, it is a little more complex. Are we clear? Any doubts? Please ask in between. I'll keep shut and then you can speak. So we visualize the conversions. Ki actually, it is looking good. We may also go for pilot studies at this point of time. Okay. So this analysis come into play, and by gaining approvals from legislature, from executive, we gather the support to take this policy forward. And where the consultations also come into place. That, for example, if I'm proposing to build a highway from this to this, and I have a proper structure formed, but then I'll also take approvals from Ministry of Environment and the Ministry of Road Transport and every other ministry that comes into play. And once I have all these approvals, I may also come into the consultations with other civil societies and NGOs and industrialists that are affected by it at this stage itself. I will not wait for the later stage ki ek baar I've invested or fir main dekhti hu ki what will happen, let's see. It will not happen like that. At the policy adoption stage itself, we'll gather all the support which is required. Because this will help us to, come up with a winning strategy of actually implementing this policy. So policy adoption also an important stage, because Anything good on paper is of no use to us until we adopt that policy. So once that policy adoption is taken into account, we come to our policy implementation, which is like, until now we were doing all the work. Now comes the play part. Only, work makes Jack a dull boy. So the play part is policy implementation, where we actually go on the ground to implement it. Abhi tak, all this was happening to a great extent in offices, where all the think tanks were working, all the people with great knowledge and experience were sitting together and having some discussions. But this policy implementation takes place where actually things come into picture, where you can see things taking shape. So now if there's a certain policy, for example, related to Ministry of Small and Medium-Sized Industries, if there's a policy related to that sector, so I will assign the responsibility of that policy to some authorities. So this is where the responsibility part takes place. Now go back to your colleges and universities where you're conducting a fest and you have 10 things to be done for the fest. And then you assign this responsibility so that so-and-so student will look after this. That is what policy implementation is, where you expect certain people first who are skilled with it. I will not assign anything to a person who does not know anything about it. Those who are skilled, those who have the proper ability, I will assign, okay, you will take this. Now it's a major task, so I'll assign 4 people who have different masteries in their own fields. So that is multiple organizations coming into play. Agreed? Now I'm giving the responsibility, but I am not giving them anything else. So sad. We need to give them resources. We need to give them the proper financial resources as well. Plus, resources also takes into account the authority. I am saying that you can do this. That means proper government entity has the authority, that is legal authority, allocating resources. It could be in the form of money, it could be in the form of human resources, or it can be in the form of permissions as well. So responsibility along with resources give the power to that organization to actually implement this policy. Correct? Now, accountability. Ensuring the implementation of the policy. Now, if I do not show up between 4 to 7 p.m. today, so Gaurav sir will assign me, you are responsible, you are accountable for not taking this workshop. Because I can be held accountable for this thing. I have taken the responsibility. So ensuring the implementation is a component of accountability. And responsibility with resources gives way to the accountability, where you can also make sure that enforcement mechanisms are into play. Suppose there are certain problems and some modifications need to be made. So through these enforcement mechanisms, we can bring modifiable designs to deal with the instant situations. Very, very good example of this is COVID pandemic, where we had policy, I mean, in the format of that we will instigate National Disaster Management Act. Okay, we have the resources. Who will do is the responsibility. But because the situation has been altered, immediately the situation has changed. So certain mechanisms can also be changed, can be modified according to your prerogative at that time because you have the authority. That is also the situation because you are supposed to deal with practical problems. In the practical situations, you do not wait for the approvals. You just take the action which is the best suitable to that problem. And that is what policy implementation entails. You have the responsibility, you have the resources, you might tweak the implementation to some extent or modify it for the benefit of the good. How many people are with me right now? Or are they doing some other work?
No, we are not doing any work.
With you, ma'am.
I am glad to see Bhavna ma'am throughout with
Thank
her
you,
camera on.
Thank you, ma'am.
Great. Now, how many of you think that you now better know what is public policy and governance? How many of you think that, okay, now I can tell people what is public policy, what does its components are, how it is, how it happens? I think you must be a little more knowledgeable than you came when you came at 4 p.m. here. Is there any difference from 4 p.m. to 5:20 p.m. right now with regards to public policy? If you may have heard.
Yes, ma'am. It's lots of.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct. So I'm not concluding here. Do not get happy that the session is closing. So now you can see 5 major policies that were introduced in last year, last decade. You must be aware of the Ayushman Bharat scheme. You must be aware of the Swachh Bharat mission. You must be aware of the Made in India, Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana. Now, I want you guys first to explain me what is Ayushman Bharat scheme. Anybody?
Ma'am, this is a health insurance, ma'am. Health insurance.
Correct.
And that was made by the union government, that everyone will be ensured. By that way, it will be benefited whenever you have to any disease or any accident or whatever the health issues are there, you can be taken any type of diagnostical things from any medical hospital like this thing.
But ma'am, is it for everyone?
Not everyone who will insure. मतलब जो इनके अंदर ही आएगा वो ही इसका फायदा उसको मिल सकता है. जैसे कि हम अभी that we are taking that Ayushman Bharat, it was giving that everybody should take that one, every government will take that, but it is not compulsory for everyone.
Correct. So in your answers, you answered all the stages. In the agenda setting, you must have gone through who will reap the benefit of the scheme. So you told the poor people who want to avail it. Then you told that it was brought forward by union government. That means you told me who is the implementing authority for it. You told me what this policy is doing, helping the people to take care of their health finances and health funding. So you also stated the objective, which was there in the policy formulation. And outcome which you were referring to is you want to ensure that people are healthy and their health does not suffer because of the lack of funding. So the 4 things which you beautifully summarized through this scheme is all what government, thought about while making this policy.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody up for the Swachh Bharat mission? Anybody want to volunteer to explain the Swachh Bharat mission?
I'm Clean India, Green India.
Correct. To ensure the sanitation aspect of our surroundings. Now, who looks after it? Ministry of Sanitation and Drinking Water, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs.
Ministry of Environment.
That means I'm giving somebody the responsibility to look after it. In this scheme, I'm not only expecting the government to do things. I'm also asking the community people to take part and do something about it. So this policy which I proposed is a bottom to top approach. I will not, make sure that you do it. I will inspire you to do it, that it comes from your side to me. So that is how we can, always differentiate policies, whether they are regulatory policies, whether they are distributive policies, what kind of policies are there depending on the statement of intent behind it. Then comes the Make in India scheme, which was here in 2014. Now, this Make in India scheme, it is not important that only one ministry is a part of it, which is Ministry of Commerce, but there are other players that come into play. If we are looking forward to ensure that the handlooms and artifacts are, produced here, then the Ministry of Khadims also comes into play. Are you getting me how we are coming to a policy and what are its reaping or, benefits that the common public is enjoying? Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana. I'm sure you all know what is it about. So I'll not conclude that public policies, this is this. By concluding that these policies, you can always map over the paper that what it actually is and how public policy came into play. Now, we will come to this slide, which I said I'll be referring to. You all can see 4 columns here.
Yeah.
Health, supply chain, regulatory, and distributive. Okay. Now, there are different areas that have been mentioned in each block here. Making healthy choices, smoking, disease prevention, child sex ratio, abortion, gun rights, taxes, labor, and so on and so forth. So now what I want you guys to do is, by being present here, you tell me which policies relate to these areas. For example, if I take the block employment, I say the something related to skill act was there, something related to guideline has come on employment. Correct? If I talk about smoking, so what is the policy that decides the ratio of the cover of the cigarette packets? That how much that lung affection would be shown and how much the warning should be written, where the warning should be written, everything. Even that has a policy related to it. So now I expect you all to tell me either in the format of a PPT or in the format of a paper or orally, tell me that what are the existing Indian policies that relate to these areas. What I'm expecting is clear.
Ma'am, for healthy choices, I think Fit India movement.
Fit India movement, correct. Something related to nutrition as well.
Ma'am, it is all about mental health, physical health, yoga, meditation.
So, so many policies you just spoke. If there's a policy on Matru Vandana Yojana, that is also related to healthy choices. If you are saying yoga, Fit India movement, all these are policies surrounding our daily lives. Do you agree with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Correct? Okay. Similarly, make a document on all the policies that are relating to these areas. And submit it to the organizers after this session. You can take the screenshot of the slide as well.
No, we want it done today itself.
Sir, if you can.
So you need, ma'am, may I ask?
Please, please. Yes, ma'am.
So is this an assignment and how long, I mean, which format you need it?
Yes, ma'am. This is an assessment to analyze that you actually understood the concept of what I was teaching.
Ma'am, if I'm right.
Later on, ma'am.
Sorry, may I?
Yes, ma'am.
What we exactly have to mention, like about what all policies that the government has initiated with respect to each one of them, and what else you want us?
Right, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.
That's it. That's it. Not too much of work.
Okay. Ma'am, like for example, if it is abortion, medical termination of pregnancy act, and relating to it, sex discrimination. So relating to that, what are the provisions the government has launched in order to prevent abortion?
Correct, ma'am.
Okay, fine. That should be done today?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
With this, I also open the forum for question and
tomorrow
answers.
evening, ma'am, because...
Okay, if you want, no.
We'll finish it. We'll finish it because it seems to be interesting and it will create an awareness within us as well. We'll do that. But you just give us time, we'll post it.
Ma'am, I'm proposing this because this session is supposed to be till 7. So I am myself giving you time of 1 hour to do this.
Smriti,
you want to post it in the group?
Hi.
Yes.
I just wanted to say that if in case you'll share the this thing assignment with us so that we can give them the assignment which you've given right away. So we'll make it a formal assignment for the participants because they already have to do some assignments and projects for the FDP.
Okay, I'll do that as well. But I was proposing for them to do this in the next 1 hour.
Okay, you modify the assignment so that we'll make it for everyone so that it will be better.
Perfect. I'll do that. With this, can we have now the question and answer round, if any? Please challenge me by asking questions. Any general comments you would want to make?
Ma'am, this is regarding that work that you've asked us to do right now. There are 16 different categories that you've given us. You want us to identify 16 or more policies of the current government.
Right, sir. It may be more than 16 if 16. You are a very good student.
Okay.
You know, when we are asked by our teachers to submit assignments, so some people do is put the content and submit. Some people add borders to it. Some people, you know, add coloring to it, new designs to it, make the PPT out of it. So it's always our prerogative, but the basic requirement is relating provisions, acts, areas, policies relating to these 16 areas. Anything above that is your prerogative. Any other questions, please? Feel free to ask.
I think everyone's on the job.
मैम जो असाइनमेंट है जैसे एक इसमें है जैसे वेलफेयर स्कीम्स हैं इनमें किसी एक के ऊपर तो कैसे असाइनमेंट कैसे देनी है वो लिख के या कैसे किस तरह से मैडम?
सर अगर टाइप होगा तो वो ज्यादा बेटर रहेगा because then the problem of understanding the handwriting goes away.
It is for PDF form.
Yes.
मैम विद इन 1 hour, जैसे अभी लैपटॉप अवेलेबल नहीं है तो मैं लिख ही सकता हूँ उसको, तो फिर मैं मैनुअल लिख के दे सकता हूँ।
ठीक है सर, आप however you are comfortable submit it that way.
कहाँ पे सबमिट करना होगा मैम इसको? इसी पे ही अटैच करेंगे कैसे?
वो गौरव सर
Ma'am,
बताइए।
we'll place it on my e-class so that the participants may directly upload their assignments over there.
That will be good, I feel, because we
Yes,
have
yes.
already been working on that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So that
we
will
are
be
good
an
that way.
easement for
वो तो
everyone.
मैंने
They will be that will make an easement for them so that they can easily upload their assignments.
All right.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I will surely send you that. So any other comments, questions, anything you would want to share with me, because we still have 10 minutes. Can I please see your
मैम
smiling
मेरे
face?
पास तो कोई ई क्लासेस का कोई ऐसा लिंक नहीं है जिसपे मैं शेयर करूं, ऐसा मेरे को तो कुछ नहीं दिया गया ऐसा।
सर
No, I am
आपकी
also
सारी
not able to log in
मैंने तो
my class.
सिर्फ 2 दिन के लिए ये वर्कशॉप ज्वाइन किया है लास्ट में, तो हमें इस तरह का कोई भी ई क्लासेस का कोई लिंक या पासवर्ड वगैरह नहीं दिया गया अभी तक जिसपे हम शेयर कर सकें।
सर आपको जिस पे लिंक आई थी आप उसी पे डाल दीजिएगा।
वो तो ये तो मैडम लिंक आया था ना सिर्फ इसी का ही, जो लिंक वेब जो हमारे जूम
किस पे
मीटिंग
आया था लिंक?
ईमेल आईडी पे, और इस
किस
पे
पे
अब
आया था?
ईमेल आईडी पर आया था पहले तो, वो व्हाट्सएप लिंक आ गया था, और अब जो है व्हाट्सएप से ही हमारे को लिंक मिल रहा है, मैं उसको ओपन कर रहा हूँ।
ठीक है, तो सर जिस पे लिंक आया था उस पे रिप्लाई करके भेज दीजिएगा।
मैडम आप समझ नहीं रहे बात को, मैं जो कह रहा हूँ उसमें भेजने का कोई अटैचमेंट
He
तो होनी
wants
चाहिए।
to say कि they are not able to give us na link for the communication, and they are not give us na a password. I am attending this workshop past 5 days, but I am not able to log in my e-class.
Mom.
No worries,
We've
ma'am.
already shared a number on the group. That is GAD-TLC's technical group. So if you have messaged them, they would just resolve your queries you have for my e-class.
Thank you, sir, for intervening. I think that makes more sense to all of us here. Okay, so can I see all of your smiling faces and then we can sign off with this session?
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Ma'am, I want to thank you for this very interesting and comprehensive presentation. I want you to, if you could just repeat the name of the person who gave 5 stages of the problem. I missed that.
That was Harold Laswell.
No, 5 stages of the problem. I think you said something Anthony.
Okay, you're referring to the issue attention cycle.
Yes, yes.
Hana?
Yes,
that has been given, yeah. Issue attention cycle has been given by Anthony Downs.
We call
Anthony
it
Downs
cycle.
Issue attention cycle that has been given by Anthony Downs in 1972.
Yes, yes. This was a list.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. So with this, I think nobody has anything else to say right now. Can I close off the session?
Sorry, ma'am, you give the assignment in my e-class, then we'll deposit our paper.
Sure, ma'am. That would be perfect.
Yes, ma'am. That will be clarify every category, whatever you have made under this one, we'll made every policy and try to deposit within this My Class Academy.
Perfect, ma'am. You guys have been a wonderful audience, I must say. And thank you for people for participating in it as well. Otherwise, I would have felt like talking to the screen, which was not the case. Thank you. And have a great, great day ahead.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you
so much. It's very informative,
ma'am. Thank you, Sudhi ma'am, for giving us an insightful session for the day. So I, on behalf of Droid Penal Group and Guru Angad Dev Teaching Learning Center, Ministry of Education, are thankful for your contribution towards this faculty development program. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.